There are a lot of sweaty palms and nail biting in newsrooms across the East Coast because a Trump victory would be the final nail in the media's coffin. An anonymous TV executive admitting if half the country has decided that Trump is qualified to be president, that means they're not reading any of this media. And we've lost this audience completely. A Trump victory means mainstream media is dead in its current form. They're fessing up that their mission is to influence you, not inform you. No one believes them. They lost their juice, and they think they're dying. What they don't realize is they've been dead for years. 3 networks and 3 papers choosing the politicians, those days are long gone. Today, we have cable, talk radio, podcasts, social media. We debunk the hoaxes before the networks can air them. But CBS is still trying to spin Biden's garbage smear. Listen.
He landed in Green Bay just a short time ago and then pulled this campaign stunt, speaking to reporters from a garbage truck. Proof that he and his supporters are giving no grace to a gaffe by President Biden, where he, in his explanation, inadvertently called Trump supporters garbage. This, of course, was in response to that racist joke about floating garbage told at a Trump rally just last weekend. Vice President Harris is distancing herself from the negativity and trying to drive home her unifying message that if elected, she will represent all Americans.
Norah O'Donnell heard Biden call half the country garbage and told her audience, Biden gaffed, Trump's a racist, and Kamala's a uniter. I can't believe she even moderated the VP debate. This is the same network that chopped up Kamala's 60 Minutes interview to give her better answers. And tonight, Trump announced he's suing CBS over that edit for $10 billion. Billion. But we all know what happened with Biden's garbage smear. Everybody in the country's talking about it. MSNBC says the media shouldn't even cover it.
This campaign is being covered by some of the best reporters I've ever seen and by some of the worst reporters I've ever seen. And the worst of them actually tried to create a controversy today. And those reporters know that that is false. But it is the kind of false narrative that panicked, stupid campaign coverage exists to amplify.
This is why no one trusts the press. We watch a video of the president calling us garbage. Then they tell us it didn't happen and to stop talking about it. Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, is telling his paper, everyone knows we're full of it. Something we're clearly doing is not working. Most people believe the media is biased. Anyone who doesn't see this is paying scant attention to reality. And those who fight reality lose. The media is in a really bad spot right now, but Jake Tapper found the bright side. If Trump wins, they'll make more money.
Yeah.
Should he win, as a writer, you're going to have a lot more material. It's entirely possible that late night ratings, not just for your show, but every comedy show, and also I should acknowledge cable news, will go way up because there will be a lot more going on. Do you ever think about the election personally versus professionally? Like, are you preparing for a Trump victory in any way, thinking, well, at the very least, it will be good for our family financially?
These guys need help. A study from the Media Research Center shows late night shows mock Trump 98% of the time. Kamala, off limits. Even though she's a walking laughing gas with a VP who's friends with school shooters. Joe Biden, on the other hand, fair game.
President Biden appeared to refer to Trump supporters as garbage. Now, obviously, what he meant to say was nothing. Why are you saying anything? Did you forget that you're so bad at saying things we had to go get somebody else?
It's not a smart thing to say. Joe Biden should drop out of this race immediately.
Today, Kamala Harris was like, could someone drop Joe in a corn maze and leave him there till Wednesday? Just have him wander? Yeah.
The only joke about Democrats once their careers are over. Can't wait to see what they say about Kamala after Tuesday. Glenn Greenwald is a Substack columnist. So very interesting that this is obviously an anonymous TV executive, Glenn. A Trump victory means mainstream media is dead in its current form. Is he right?
I think he's right to the extent that it's actually been true for 8 years. Ever since Trump descended the elevator, the primary narrative of the corporate media has been that Trump is a fascist, Trump is a racist, Trump as a fascist Hitler type figure. And not only did he win in 2016, and let's say he tied in 2020, there's obviously half the country about to vote for him again. And not only half the country, but a huge number of non-white voters, as the media is saying that Trump is a white supremacist, a Hitlerian Nazi figure, have been migrating from the Democratic Party over to Trump. And so you can see in everything that the American people are doing that nothing the media says day after day after day about him has any real effect. The only bizarre part is that it's taking them only until now to realize that their relevance has been rapidly diminishing.
Yeah, they're seeing you're right. The governing coalition is going out the window and their business model shot. And now you have MSNBC complaining about the liberal media. What does it tell you when the liberal media, who usually works in complete unison, is not on the same page?
I try and tell people all this time because I've worked with a lot of liberals in media. I have friends who are on the left liberal side of the media, which is basically the whole media. And when I say this, people don't believe me, but it's really true. Most liberals believe that the problem with the corporate media is that they're pro-Trump and anti-Kamala or anti-Democratic. And I know it's shocking to believe since they're basically overtly defending Kamala, but that is really what their grievance is.
All right. Well, that's shocking because I had no idea how far gone they were. Not gone, but partisan. I still want to make friends with your friends, Glenn. Lastly, the question of how a media will behave in a second Trump term. Jake Tapper talked about it. Maybe it'll be good for business. How do you see things if Trump wins with the media?
Well, it's true that Trump saved a huge number of their jobs. If you go back and look at 2014, 2015, almost every MSNBC and CNN host was on the verge of getting fired because nobody watched them. Trump single-handedly saved their jobs, saved the industry, kind of gave those shows a sugar high. Same with the Washington Post and the New York Times. And so while, of course, they do hate Trump and they're praying every day that he loses and doing everything they can to make sure that happens, they do know in the back of their mind that Democrats are boring. No one wants to hear about Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, that Trump is charismatic. He's a showman and he attracts a lot of attention. And I think Jake Tapper asking Seth Meyers, he was projection. That's what Jake Tapper thinks.
Yeah. The media and Trump really have this really twisted symbiotic relationship where they need each other, but they hate each other. But they need each other and hate each other. And I don't want to get any deeper than that. Glenn Greenwald, good to see you. Stay healthy.
Good to see you, Jesse.